So I had to write some stuff because I know some people don't have the patience or the time to listen to my videos, and I get it. Sometimes I need to hear myself, but I pretty much have figured out a lot of stuff. And if I need to hear myself, I'll read stuff that I need to read. But this video is going to be more for looking at the indicators of where you are and where you live and what the system is warning you about and not warning you about as far as where your area is going to end up and how it's going to be reconfigured. And since we don't know the actual timeline play by play, we can see indicators in other countries. We can see what happens when a desert gets deluged by so much water that there are these flash floods. Okay? We get these indicators. When you see, like someplace in Lebanon or other places that's a desert, and they're getting so much water, and you're seeing all this water come through, like, oh my God. That's because the desert wasn't made to hold that much water. Okay? And so the water rushes over everything. And so that's an indicator that if you're living, when you think about it, when you're living somewhere like, let me go to that map. All right, photos. Because I got to figure out how I'm going to say this. There's the West Coast map. This is just for my West Coast people right now. I'll go to the other one. But there's a warning when you're looking at what happened in the desert and all this water's rushing through and coming through. And then you look at the map of the West Coast of the Forbes future maps of the world and, of course, of America. You see Nevada is underwater. You see Utah is underwater. You see parts of Arizona underwater. California is underwater. Oregon, most of Oregon basically is underwater. Part of Idaho is underwater. Wyoming seems to be okay. Maybe people should move to Wyoming, South Dakota, if they can handle the cold. Okay? And so that's an indicator. Those of you that live in Nevada, Las Vegas, I don't care if you're in the foothills or wherever the fuck, when you're seeing water build up in areas that didn't have water before because of so much rain, that's an indicator. When there's floods in Vegas that went through the Caesar's Palace and that was dripping on the actual floor, the gambling floor, that's an indicator. That should be a warning. See, we're getting all these warnings in the West Coast and the UK and all these different places telling you inclement weather's going on. I mean, the last 2 fucking weeks, the agonizing watching the storm climb its way up the fucking coast or up the Atlantic. That should serve as a warning to you. You're getting so much warning. Get off the coastlines. Maybe figure out a game plan. Cash out your 401k. Cash out all your bonds, saving, whatever. Pull your money out of the stock market and go find somewhere in the middle of the U.S. to live. But definitely not in fucking Nevada. Not in Arizona, because part of that's going to the wayside. You'll have oceanfront property. I mean, there's dams. A dam over there somewhere, I forget where, but it's in the Middle East somewhere. A dam just all of a sudden, like, broke apart. And all this water comes rushing through. Wow. Would that be why maybe most of Nevada, Hoover Dam and all that? I mean, we know in the conspiracy, we've been conditioned in this, okay? And so that should be an indicator. If you have money and you live in Nevada, get the fuck out. Like, literally, get out. I mean, I can't be any more freaking clear with this. Holy shit. I know I'm focusing, I'll go into other places, but I don't know a lot of, I mean, well, you guys will figure out, but I don't know like the specific landmarks. You guys can study your own maps in your own areas. If you're like in the UK, Scotland, whatever. Okay. But I mean, right now I'm focusing on the US because part of Indiana is going to be underwater. I think where the Mississippi River is going to overflow its banks. And Oh yeah, even part of Ohio. Now they show part of the Ohio. Where? Oh, that's right, because there is the Great Lakes, and then you see the blue water around where the Great Lakes would have been, as far as where the border is now, where the actual shore is now. And then there's more water. I don't know how far inland it goes. Okay? It doesn't go into that detail, but you see that there is blue, which is going, I don't know how, it could be an hour far. I mean, would it go up to Canton? I couldn't tell you. But it seems that water is going further inland. And I might be looking at, might look at Lake Erie, might be like a half hour away, or even 20 minutes or 5 minutes away where I'm living before, or instead of an hour away. And that goes for, well, Pennsylvania seems to be okay. Even parts of New York, but then it's the coastline that you have to be worried about. It's the coastline. And so they show you the outline of where the U.S. would have been if there wasn't water, and then you see where the water is, and now you're seeing these storms coming up, and we're just so new into this, and they just accelerated 2030, UN Agenda 2030. They accelerated it. What does that mean? Well, now I'm waking up, okay, to my Facebook reels of all this devastation in the Middle East, in Greece and Turkey, and Spain is right now on fire or flooded. Okay, and then we have a hurricane coming through possibly Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whenever. Arkansas is going to be underwater. Can you hear me? I know. Arkansas is going to be underwater. I just had like a reconnect warning. So hopefully you can hear me. And so, yeah, so there's definitely, I'm waking up to Facebook reels that are showing me all the devastation. And you see Arkansas is underwater. The bottom part of Missouri is underwater. Part of Illinois is underwater. Indiana, mostly underwater. Michigan, mostly underwater. Holy shit, even Michigan. I wouldn't live up in Michigan. And I would live, thanks, John. I would live, so those of you who are in America, study that map. Study that map before everybody else figures it out. And I'm telling you, I don't have that much pull. I have a few people watching me, and that's great. But when you think about it, when you think about how many people in the U.S., 300 million people, and I'm only like a tiny, tiny speck, and they've already discredited me because I'm not a doctor, and I'm not this, and I'm not that. So they already have people thinking I'm just stupid. And I'm fine with that. Those of you who fucking get it, you could potentially save yourself if you have enough money. You may not have enough money. I'm sorry, I can't help you there. But wow. Oh my God. And so, let me look. So let's look at I don't know enough of where people live. But there is was it Northern Europe? Is the UK in Northern Europe? I don't even know. You guys have to oh gosh. I'm trying to there's Poland. See, Poland? I wish I had a map. Okay. I need to get another map of Northern Europe. Okay. Okay, so there's United Kingdom. And mute. All right, so yeah. So then you look at, oh, there you go. Okay, so the United Kingdom's to the left. And there's Poland. Okay. And so when you look at the United Kingdom, there's a little bit of Ireland there. Oh my God, there's a lot of places in the United Kingdom are going to be gone. Study that map, okay? Study that map. Because when you look at the maps that show where everything is, and you look at then the future maps, prepare yourself, because Poland's going to be gone. Is it? Oh, Jesus, I can't even fucking read some of this. Is it Ukraine? I can't, yeah. Because it's so blurry. But, yeah. You know where you are on the map. I can't read all the writing because it's too. But study that, okay? Because I'm telling you, even a lot of Northern Europe is going to be gone as well. Study those maps I have on my Facebook. Because right now the writing's on the wall. How it's going to roll out, I couldn't tell you. How it's going to roll out, I could not tell you. Oh. So this person's like, add me. I don't know who you are. No, I'm not adding you. I'm not adding you. I don't know who the fuck you are. Okay? And so anyways, and so the writing's on the wall, I mean, and so let me read some of this. And so the cures market has disabled your ability to process warnings. All those remedies and surgeries and pills and powders and detoxes took away your ability to understand warnings and indicators. And that's what's going on. Is that we people that have been warned, like the conspiracy world was like your immune system. The conspiracy world was people who were activated and trained in this, because, I don't say trained in this, but when you're listening to someone like Alex Jones at the time, you're listening to people like Jesse Ventura. And I understand, I've been demonizing them, yes, because of their solutions that are basically going to contribute to the problem and actually realize the agenda. But they were still indicators. That was your immune system, regardless of how you what your solution is. Alex Jones, Jesse Ventura, myself, so many other people, okay, were indicators. Now, it doesn't mean you do their solutions, but they were indicators letting you know shit's going on, something's happening, there is something going on, wake up, you know. But when you have so many different indicators and people screaming here and there and everywhere, people get overwhelmed and then they shut off, or they go and just, they are in denial and they block and delete, which I understand, or they just find a way to discredit you and say that you're stupid. And so the cures market has disabled people's ability to feel. And so then they only listen to them who they're told to listen to. And so when they're saying, oh, well, we're going into cold and flu season, so get your V, that's their only indicator besides a few symptoms that they keep remedying away with the medical holistic system. That's the system conditioning people to only listen to certain people when it comes to warnings. But you never had something like what's going on right now with all these weather things and pandemics and destruction. And so then part of us has been activated to warn everyone and then been ridiculed for it. Been called conspiracy theorists and all these horrible names, and gullible and stupid, or you don't have a job, or you're just a basement, troll or some shit. Okay, so now IFL science, now all the rising of the new meteorologists all over YouTube, now they're trying to warn you shit's happening that we've been saying for fucking years. Now, as far as the whole disease and death and all that, I'm the indicator. So is all the anti-V people too. Okay, I get it. Are indicators that there's something going on. Doesn't mean that I'm going to take on anyone's solution out there except for my own. Face the pain, release the demons, literally and figuratively, and eat all food. But I was an indicator letting you know that you didn't have to die from fucking cancer, disease, and chronic illness or old age. And that cancer wasn't bad. It was just like what John was saying, under or unutilized life. Well, it's unutilized life that doesn't have a purpose, and it's chaotic like children until a parent comes in and regulates that child. If there's no mature parent cells enough to regulate that child goes crazy and fornicates and replicates, just like these children out there in like Big Brother, these reality shows where they're all stuck in a house and everyone does each other. Like Beverly Hills 90210 and Melrose Place, everyone just does each other. Dallas and and Dynasty, all these shows from the 1980s. Okay, so when you have so many little juvenile cells doing each other and developing so much life, then you get fucking cancer. And then people they go and attack it. Instead of saying, okay, time to go, kids, push them out of the nest. Oh no, people attack the life in their body. And then the body senses that it's being attacked. and then it redoubles its efforts of growth, because you can't like kill all the juvenile cells, because even though they're coagulated in one area, it doesn't mean that there aren't like, what do you call it, remote areas of those juvenile cells as an insurance, that if something happens here, they have growths over here. And so though you might be in remission for a minute, they're all eating up now everything, and potentially you might get out of remission. You might have a resurgence of it in a higher frequency environment. Or you age faster because those little juvenile cells are eating the parent cells at a faster rate if you successfully disbanded them. And so you've had all your indicators basically taken away from you, or you've attacked the life in your body. Why am I laughing? Because it's just fucking crazy right now. And so you haven't felt anything or listened to any real warnings from your body for probably 40, 50, 60 years. And now I'm crazy enough to think you're going to listen to warnings today. No, you're not. You're going to be like, oh, no, Jillian's stupid. No, that's going to happen over there. It's not going to happen to us because we're America. We're the best. We can't be taken down. Oh, wait, we got to blame Trump. We got to blame Biden. We got to blame this guy and that guy. And okay. And so if you haven't even listened to your own body and you listen to the medical holistic system, you ain't listening to me. Fuck no. You've already been conditioned. That was intended. Yeah, not going to fucking happen. So when craziness comes to your door, you'll probably take a picture like people do. I mean, I would too, okay? But from a safe distance. But then you see people so shocked. They're like, I don't know if I can handle having a tree fall again in my yard again. Well, no shit. Maybe you should move up north. Maybe don't live in the south, because you're going to get deluged with so much water. Okay, but what about up north? How are you going to save yourself from all this, Jillian? Well, I don't know how far Lake Erie is going to creep up to me. I don't know. I know that I'm weighing out the pros and cons that, yes, there's the Ohio River, and there's other rivers that could overflow their banks. Okay, that's possible. There is tornadoes. That's absolutely possible. And there's snow and deep freezes and even electricity going out. Like, I watched a video last night of the blizzard of 77, and it was pretty crazy. It was I didn't like go to details to listen to where it was. I was just listening to them talking. It was like a radio. It wasn't even saying like a narrative like this is what happened. No, it was just the radio of a radio announcer saying, oh, we have something happen over here. We have a bunch of kids, 50 kids are going and looting houses and looting cars and looting places that are, cars that are stuck on the highway and buried under some snow. And so that's what they were reporting on, was just kids that were going out and looting everything, taking advantage of the situation. And so I don't even know where it was, but I'm sure it was in the Northeast somewhere and probably in the Midwest. And so I don't rule that out. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't rule out anything. I purposely moved to the Northeast because I wanted that weather. I'd rather be in cold than in heat and dealing with water and humidity and rain. We get rain here. And we get some storms here. But I would rather be here than down south. I would rather be here than out west. I would rather be here than way up north, because obviously you saw the maps. Michigan is going to be mostly underwater. Holy shit. Well, there you go, Detroit. It's so depressed. So how does the system clean itself up? Water. Floods. People are going to be traumatized. You think it won't happen to you? You think weather won't happen to you until it does. Too worried about the fair looking hot, right? The denial in humanity is amazing, and I'm prepared to live in a FEMA camp. If it must go down that way, okay? Because we have a lot of post-World War II houses out here. We have a lot of Section 8 housing out here. But, I mean, that's not bad. There's a lot of people that have been brought up to the level of some kind of consciousness of tolerance or good intentions of ending racism and chauvinism and all that stuff. There's a lot of educated people in Ohio. Okay, so it's not like they're going to completely decimate the educated people. There might be certain pockets that might all of a sudden have blue fires happen and then red fires. And I'm just glad they know who I am. I'm glad that I'm finally figured out how to explain everything. I'm not kissing any boots. I'm not licking any boots. I understand the arguments out there, and I'm coming from the point of not only science, but then no more conspiracy shit. There's so much resistance and so much intolerance that what is the system to do? Yeah, you can say conspiracy, but what do you do when people don't listen to indicators? What do you do when people do not want to listen to or want to change? Because you can't go the way we've been going for years. There's got to be at some point a tipping point, and we're at it. That's why I mentioned even the sexuality the last couple days. Sexuality leads to deviancy. There's different levels of deviancy and how bad it could get, but we're seeing how bad it could get. It can get pretty bad. And so right now, when you have people procreate on bodies in major deficit on all types of drugs and alcohol and everything else, what kind of kids are you producing? That's what the system is now trying to clean up, is what they've produced. Because they had to do all the experiments. They had to see how bad it could get. And then how do people react to how bad it can get? Where will the innovation come from? Will it come from here, 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 here? And so all of you have a chance to be innovative and be the one to lead your community out of danger and show the system that you will be the kind of person that can help bring everyone to a specific level of tolerance and existence without scaring people, saying that there's evil. There is no evil. It's just, what are you going to fucking do? You can't you can't change people. Why do you think things are happening over there in the Middle East, in those areas that are that are failing infrastructure and factions that want to do harm? Why do you think some places are getting a lot more shit than other places? That should be a clue to you. Some people are expendable because they refuse to evolve. Now look at where you are. Now look at who you hang out with. Now look at your area, your region. If you're in the West, you have a better chance than not, and you're getting plenty of warnings where not to be. And there's factions even in America and in the West of where they are so resistant and so antiquated. And you can see where they might congregate. A lot of it's in the South, and most of it's in Florida and the South. Why do you think Florida was a destination for retirees, for people who want to be on a continuous vacation, for those who have health issues that can't handle the cold, drug addicts, right-wing conservatives? Okay? This shit's been in plans for years. For years. And then the rich people. When you have so many people who are so rich, and you see what happened in San Francisco. That place is a shithole now. And now there's a huge sinkhole. Well, there's liquefaction. You concentrate some kind of energy in one area, and all of a sudden there's a caving in, a liquefaction. There's a sinkhole in Green and Fillmore. Oh, I used to live in San Francisco. I know how decimated how it was decimated during the 89 quake. 89, and then Northridge was out of LA. That quake. It was 7.1 in San Francisco in 89 in the Bay Area. And I was in Lafayette, California, running across the lawn at the library. I saw the seismic waves. And I couldn't even stand up. And I went to the library afterwards, and books were off the shelf. But it was relatively okay in Lafayette, which is the East Bay. But I'll tell you, San Jose, people were stranded. And then my dad was 5 minutes after the Bay Bridge collapsed. One section of it collapsed. Okay? And so then New York is also going through its own shit. There are people, all these stores, these highfalutin stores are closing up, and there's these roving flash mob thievery going on. There's a takedown of the rich. Takedown of the rich. Who's to say when the Hamptons will go down at some point? Well, look at the Atlantic seaboard, the Eastern seaboard. You look at the maps, you see what's going on. The Hamptons are on the fucking ocean. All that oceanfront property decimated. what they're doing is the World Economic Forum is allowing people to compete on a level playing field. They're going to take the rich down to a certain notch. They're going to bring the poor up to a certain notch, and everyone's going to be equal. That's called what you'd say is, I don't say communism, but it's prairie fire. That's what's going on. We're heading into prairie fire, if not already. And those who are upper middle class, even millionaires, who are not part of the elite, they're going to be brought down. Like those upper middle class who are making $200,000-300,000 a year. Executives in companies. I wouldn't even say, well, CEOs in small companies, not CEO in big companies, because like Sony CEO and all those big, like, all the titans of industry, they're not going to be sacrificed. But those, when they're little small companies, CEOs making maybe a couple million a year, you'll be knocked down to size. They're bringing everyone to a certain level. That's the whole point of the World Economic Forum. We're in another industrial reset. And the writing's on the wall, okay? And I'm prepared to live in a FEMA camp if it must go down that way. And there's going to be a reconfiguration of even your own town. How bad will it get? Are you prepared to lose everything? Your animals, your tools, everything. This is why you must mentally prepare yourself. And it's not like I have a playbook. Okay? But I see indicators. I look what happened in Hawaii. Where will they go? Some are in hotels. And so there might be temporary camps until they build the smart cities. You don't know. What are you around? Who are you around? If you are one of those that go to all these fairs, everyone's getting high and doing psychedelics and all that stuff, and they increase the frequency, and now people are dying from heart attacks and strokes, or be a patsy for a future pandemic like Burning Man, who knows? But I wouldn't want to go to any concerts or any major gatherings. I wouldn't want to go to anything that's like that. Because you just don't know. That's why I say prepare for everything. Gamble for yourself and bet for yourself, not against yourself. I took a gamble for myself. I made shit happen for me. The indicators were screaming, and I had just enough money to move over here 11 years ago. I had $2,500 to my name because I negotiated a deal with a district manager since I wasn't going to be there forever, and I knew it. They probably didn't know it, but I knew it. So I had a district manager and that one agent who I was working for accept my offer that if I get him through the program and get him 30 policies and 30 auto and home and 3 life policies, that I would get $2,500. And I knew at the end of that month, I would take them. I knew I would reach that goal because I know who I am. And I would take that money and fucking run. And I did. I got him through the program, and I got those life policies, and I got those 30 policies, or 40, I forget what. It was 40 and 4. That's right. And I was cold calling like I was working day and night because I knew that was going to be my key to the future, was that $2,500. It may be just $2,500 that you have to your name to get yourself out of harm's way. Some of you have $25,000. Some of you have $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 that you can go and relocate. You could go and liquidate. Okay? So if I could do it on $2,500 going into an unknown, and I didn't do too much research about Canton, Ohio, really, when you think about it. When I came here, I was like, oh, wow, there's some ghetto shit here. Holy shit. But it was all new to me. I was from California, coming into Ohio, a totally different part of the world. And I risked it all, okay? Not knowing what the hell I was going into. And so I took a gamble for myself. Some of you have now the privilege to go and research the areas that you can go into. You can call some real estate person and be like, hey, I want to buy here, 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 and here. Find me a house with a little bit of property. Oh my God. And then if you don't have to be in that town that you're in, then you can work remotely. But if your money and your glory is tied to the government in an area that could be underwater at some point, you don't know when. But do you want to wait for that to happen? Because that's the thing. People are like, I don't know if I want to gamble that and just throw everything away on a what if. Okay. So then you wait for it to happen. By that time, it's too late. And then all the property that you could have had at a cheaper rate is now high expensive. And most people are moving there because they see the writing on the wall. And you are like, well, I'm just going to keep milking this position, keep milking my position until I see when it's really appropriate. But by that time, it might be too late. That's the gamble. That's the gamble. That's what people are facing. And I don't envy you, because that is something that is like, whoa. And I get the fear of actually upping yourself and changing, especially when all of your social capital, everything, your life is built into this one area and you can't relocate for whatever reason. And see, Las Vegas and Nevada is a gambling community, and people are being too conservative in a gambling community. That's ironic, right? And so I took a gamble for myself. I made shit happen for me. The indicators were screaming, and I had just enough money to move over here to Ohio 11 years ago. Sometimes that's what it's going to take. You might just have enough money to move out of harm's way. And if you have a 401k and a savings account and it's full, my advice, if you're in harm's way, cash it out, buy somewhere north. Prepare yourself for a long, cold winter. And I would not live on the coast. I would not be moving to fucking New Orleans. People are planning to move to New Orleans, or planning to move to Florida or to California. I'm like, and I don't say anything. When I see people say that on Facebook, I don't say shit. I'm like, okay. I would move inland, because right now the future is changing. You're sitting on money that could save your life. Weigh out the climatological, geological pros and cons. And you don't have too long. Okay? The future is now. People are like, oh, I can't make those kind of snap decisions. Well, that was bred into you to weigh out everything and take a long time and look for more indicators. I don't know what kind of indicators you're looking for, but I think the writing's on the wall, but maybe not. Some people, it will take something else. It might be too late. Okay? And so, Manitoba, they had evacuees. When you think about Manitoba preparing for 3,000, that was back in like the middle of August, 3,000 evacuees from the Northwest Territory wildfires. So when all these evacuees are coming into the inner cities, and then there's going to be 15-minute cities. How they're going to configure it, I don't know. They probably have their plan over there in Canada. But that's what's going on in Canada, is that they're going to take everyone out of the different areas in the inner cities, and then maybe they'll develop whatever 15-minute cities, or who knows, in different pockets. And then who knows how they're going to even like put like-minded people together. Well, we'll put people who are Section 8 and retirees over here in a cheaper area. We'll put those, and they won't say it like that, but they'll have offerings that will, people who are only 401k, or not 401k, who are only retirees in Section 8, government people living over here. And then you have people who are, relatively middle class or just like working men, but they're helping with the infrastructure. They live over here. And those who are in the offices and whatever, they live over here. And then those who are retirees in Section 8 housing, oh gosh, one day something happens and they're all gone. But you can't alarm people. They start picking up on clues. And so there's like a slow boil. So, I mean, there's so many ways of which how the system can condition people to accept that certain people are going to be phased out through, like we call it attrition, but phased out because of overdoses, phased out because of disease, phased out because of this, or phased out because of faulty wiring or fires. And it's done in a way where it doesn't completely alarm those who are still doing their job and whatever. You can't rule out anything. So figure out where you are in all this. Okay? Intend to be a contributing member of society. Intend to not think that you're going to live on a stipend. That you are doing something to help society. Okay? Secure your place in the future. Literally, find a way to get some kind of certification. Figure out what you're going to do to secure your place in this world. And so now You must be your own geologist, climatologist. How many of you are so fucking overwhelmed right now? Yeah, because you're putting your energy in all the bullshit, in denial. But what are you doing to prove to not only yourself, but your community that you deserve a place in the future? Okay, so IFL Science, a mainstream news rag, giant cracks are opening up in the U.S. and it's concerning. They're telling you, people in the U.S., especially California, where everything, especially, California. And even Sacramento, because you look at California, again, the future map, let's look at North America. Fuck, there's only a little bit of, that looks like even, small little peninsula, and that could be like San Bruno. Like right there on is it the 80? I forget. The 880? No, that's not. But anyways, San Bruno, like the peninsula of California. Because they have a little peninsula over there in the South Bay. Right below San Francisco. But you look at California, it's basically underwater. Underwater. What the hell? Okay? And so I said, if you live in rich areas, especially the LA area, Orange County, it's not just tropical storms, my friends, fires, floods, and fissures. Everyone is going to be knocked down several notches or brought up several notches relative to where they are, and you might not even fucking survive. Think of the worst thing that can happen to you in your city, and look at history. Maybe the pot or the marijuana is messing with your brain. And California is famous for wildfires and Santa Ana winds, and of course the earthquakes. And, your volcanoes as well. You can't rule that out because we have Kilauea, we have so many things going on. And there's blue fires, blue flame from Turkey. And so I said, you see the pickle that you're in when you're in the desert, flash floods, look at the patterns. And then look at the patterns here when I said, those in the West, you're getting lots of warnings. Who are the West? Those in the first world. You're getting lots of warnings. I mean, lots of warnings. Other places, are they as lucky? Wake up. And who knows? Maybe those in third world countries did get a warning and they did not listen. Or maybe they didn't. It's difficult to warn people of sinkholes in San Francisco because they're built on landfills. And so any energy concentrated in one area will then turn an area into liquefaction, and then you get a sinkhole because there's nothing to keep it up. It's all been melted into liquid. That's the Marina District too. But a lot of San Francisco is on landfills, is built on a landfill. And it's not that difficult to then take all those houses, and just what happened in 1906, they said it could have been a DEW in 1906 because everything was laid out like it was in Hawaii that you saw, or even in Paradise, California. And so that's how the Marina District in San Francisco, California, was decimated during the quake of '89. And so you're all getting plenty of warnings. Some of you are fucking stubborn. You're going to wait for something to happen, but you're not paying attention to your geological location and what could happen to you. And then the future maps of the world. The future is now. And so IFL Science is saying there's cracks in the U.S. Okay? Why do you think SF is a shithole right now? Why do you think it will happen? What do you think will happen to LA at some point? Orange County, New York, Florida. But that's a given. Floridians, they'll figure it out, or they won't. And there's no saying that just because you're in Tallahassee or you're up in the northern part of the Panhandle, that's not going to be hit several times by a hurricane and decimated over and over and over and over again. And even in Georgia, I'm not saying that it's going to be taken off the map, but can you handle all the storms that are coming through? Maybe it doesn't affect you now, but it might affect you later. How many times are you going to rebuild? Okay? And so when I said, did they get a warning? So you got 2 weeks warning right now for the one hurricane that's coming up the Atlantic coast called Hurricane Lee, and behind that Margot or Nigel. And then I was just like, well, what about San Francisco? Well, you really can't get a warning there. And then what about over there in some place in Indonesia? What about in Hong Kong? Why Wan Chai, Hong Kong? That's where some people I know that are CNN anchors that live in Hong Kong. Hopefully she gets out of Hong Kong, and hopefully, or maybe she's so, who knows, she might be high enough up there where her husband is elite enough to get out of harm's way. But she's also from California, and I don't think she, so I don't know. I mean, even those who I used to go to school with who are movers and shakers, if they don't figure it out, they'll be sacrificed. And yeah, and I don't know where that's Spain and the desert and some other place, and all these places that are getting all these deluge of water coming through their streets and just taking everything down. And so I posted all those videos, those Facebook reels, to show you the devastation, to prove to you, no, it's not CGI. Okay? And so, where my world comes in, so when they project by 2045, people will be infertile, then you have to be the best copy. I mean the best. No one else is going to carry on your genetic line. This is where my world enters into the picture. You have a chance to save yourself. Last man standing. And so that's why you must now finally face the demons. And if facing demons means that you go and liquidate all of your investments, all of your assets, and go buy a house somewhere where you look on the map of where it would be relatively safe that can handle some kind of devastation, and you're willing to leave everything that you have right now, because remember, you quit when you're ahead. That's how you're going to not be bankrupt. When you're gambling, you don't gamble to the last minute and lose everything. When you're gambling right now in this society right now, whether or not you should stay or go, you quit when you're ahead. Oh, but I built my life around this. Yeah, well, life is changing. That's the thing. Okay? So this is my world, is now you got to be the best copy. Give your kids a chance. Last man standing. And so in 20 years, it'll be 2043, and I would be 69 years old. Fertility rates down. Most of the world washed away, if not part of the world. Wow. About 70% of the world's population is expected to live in urban areas by 2050, according to data from the United Nations. That means most cities are going to need more infrastructure, roads, public transportation, and waste management will need massive expansion and upgrades. All right. So we're in the process of now. Build back better. Remember that. Yesterday was so highly energetic. Oh my God. Now I got to read this about the whole vax thing. You got to hear this. Okay? So those who are anti-V, wanting people who have been V'd to suffer repercussions for what they think is a discrepancy, which is taking a V, right? And the anti-V person is using natural remedies, and they don't care if they live or die. They expect to die. Please get off my Facebook. Well, I just blocked you. Well, I just unblocked you because I'm not that mean. People have been radicalized and conditioned to resist the V's. That's who they think is why people are sick and dying and whatever else. And that's their only go-to. And I get it. I still like them. I think they're great. We just need to stop going back and forth like that. Okay. So I just unblocked them. There's two people. Another person dropped scripture, but I like her too. She just annoyed the fuck out of me that day. Some people do. And I don't have a lot of patience, but I do and I don't. It just depends. And this last couple days have been highly energetic. And so I just unblocked both those ladies, and I still care about them. No more discussion about that. Just observe. Because I really can't keep going back and forth with people. Read my pinned post. I respect life. I promote indefinite life. Period. If you're going to use natural remedies and against those who are V'd, your argument is bullshit. You think your way of managing disease is so much better than somebody else's. And then you want to blame them. And then you're mean-spirited about it too. And I don't have time for that bullshit, right? And so when you think about what actually is going on, V's promote life. How does that mean V's promote life? Because it activates your immune system. The fact that you get a reaction from a V says it promoted some kind of life in your body. It doesn't matter if you think it's working for you or against you, because it doesn't matter. You don't know what's working for or against you because you've taken so many different therapies that are working against you. You have so many mercenaries in your body, and you have your body also trying to fight off the mercenaries, and they're trapped in your body because you haven't really released them. So you have absolutely no idea how those V's are characterized in your body. You have no idea. You don't know how they're getting converted for you or against you. You have no idea. Okay, so they promote life. What kind of life? It doesn't even matter at this point. Now you have a chance to eat all food so you can reinforce your immune system, build up your antibodies to then get rid of the actual enemy. The mercenaries that are actually working against you, working for somebody else, that are trying to take up residence and colonize your body. But people think that they know who the enemy is and who the enemy is not, when they have been taking in all the herbs, all the extracts, all the detoxes, all the things that are antibiotic, and they have developed the enemy within, so they don't even know what the fuck they hold inside. Okay? So V's promote life. Nothing is fucking poison unless it's not FDA approved for the intention. Natural remedies are anti-life. And people who are anti-V can't handle fucking life, or they wouldn't be bitching about reaction. It takes life to give you a reaction. Granted, not everyone is prepared for reaction, but you've always squelched reactions, and you're not immune to the world you live in. You don't live in a bubble. So when you're walking into a crowd of people and they're highly energetic, you're going to get a reaction. You might feel a surge of energy. You might be coughing, sneezing, blowing your nose. You might even feel a headache because of the energy that's in your environment, okay? Natural remedies attempt to stop the life from happening, which is the body's attempt to push out antigen. That's something that your body holds inside because you have trapped it inside. Antigenic, anti-gene, antigenetic, antigen. They disable the person's immune system from working. Who's they? The natural remedies. From working the way it's supposed to. And then the natural remedies also develop offspring to work against you to disable your body's immune system from releasing. And so when you're taking all your natural remedies and you're building up an army that disables your immune system from working, then you've built up mercenaries that don't even work for you. They work fucking against you. It's like, again, taking in the enemy in your house and letting them work against you every single day, undermining you every single fucking day. That's what the medical, holistic, energy healing people do. They deploy mercenaries to work against your body and work for them because they're getting money from you and social capital and all the things that they are so addicted to. Validation. And so V's activate a person's immune system and they develop life that you also have to manage and release. But V's are not taking away life because you still have to feed the energy. You take away your own life when you starve yourself. You're supposed to eat. You're the one that chooses to go on all your fucking diets. But again, if you don't release those antigens, the antigen antibody programming will destroy you because it's a constant fight. Now it's a battle, and the battle is metastasizing. And you always must allow your immune system to release, not stop it, regardless of how you characterize symptoms and what you do or do not in reaction to. V's always activate the immune system and promote life. Always. Fucking do the math. Okay? So when you're taking in an antibiotic, you're taking in a V. A V is probiotic. A natural remedy is antibiotic. Okay? Then you have to handle that life that's coming in. The offspring. Is the offspring working for you? Is the offspring working against you? And so V's always activate the immune system and promote life. Always. No matter what, getting a V or doing a remedy, you still have to manage life in your body. And you have to feed the energy in your body. If you have to do a remedy or any therapy, you have proven that you have not managed the life in your body properly at all whatsoever. Therapies are not needed if you actually had an immune system you knew how to manage on your own. And then you have proven you don't understand your immune system because you've always had someone manage your disease and manage your immune system for you. Any remedy against reaction your body experiences means you have failed to manage the life in your body properly and efficiently. So spare me the anti-V bullshit. I'm fucking done. Okay? And no, I have no more patience for any anti-V people anymore, or pro-V, because it's not for you to say if I should get one or not get one. It is now pointless. frequencies will get you regardless of the V status. If you don't understand how to release and eat, then no matter what, everything will get you. Okay? And so that is all. And oh my God, I finally was able to express how pointless the anti-V argument is finally. Go team. And so the key thing is recovery time. How much time are you giving your body to recover from the last kinetic energy? Now you have to understand that sometimes, well, not sometimes, all the time, you've had 40, 50 years of so much kinetic energy, and you still have kinetic energy in the body. Remember, blood type A and B have so much antigen antibody programming. All right? And so you got to be able to know that that has to be fed and released, and also bring in whatever you do daily. And then, of course, when things do come to surface, like that antigen antibody programming, you have to now feel all the energy. And it could come up in skin condition. It could come up in infection. You can't stop the body from releasing. Okay? So you can only imagine if you're blood type A and B, how much of that dis-ease you hold inside. And that has to be released systematically and be fed. Okay? And that's why I'm saying that in my relationship, I allow enough time in between my relationship with my husband so I can recover. Okay? Because that's a reality in all marriages, in all committed relationships, is how much time are you able to recover in between whatever you're doing. People are like, oh, well, you're married and oh, you have a girlfriend. Everything is great. Yeah, you're still having damage done to you. Are you giving time to recover from that? Okay? And if you're single and you're out there gallivanting and doing whatever, are you giving enough time for you to recover from all the last 40, 50, 60 years of all that antibody programming inside your body wanting to come to surface? Everything is down to an accounting type of mechanism. What are you accounting for? How much are you in deficit? How much do you owe your body? And sometimes you owe your body a lot of food, a lot of rest, a lot of relaxation, and less expending of resources, because you are now having to pay back everything you've done to your body, mind, and spirit. You are now looking at the ledger of your life and doing the accounting of it. And so the key thing is recovery time. How much time are you giving your body to recover from the last kinetic energy? And it could be the last 40 years of all that kinetic energy and abuse you've done to your body. And so when I posted that article about I'm a sugar baby and I've made $500,000 traveling the world with a wealthy older client, can you imagine how much damage has been done to all of her openings? I'm sure nothing is off the table if she's getting $500,000 traveling the world with a wealthy older client. Can you imagine every orifice has been violated? Because when you're getting paid that kind of money, everything's up for grabs. Everything is up for grabs. I couldn't do it. Fuck no, I couldn't do it. And so I said, I like the freedom of eating tomatoes and croissants and fruit in my house with a modest income than to go and do some old man who has crazy ass sexual needs. My husband is it. He's the last of the greatest species I'll ever give my body to. No one will ever replace my husband. He is it. He is irreplaceable. And so I said different strokes for different folks. And I said sex dolls need to make a living too. She should get paid enormously for all the damage down there. Hope she survives her lifestyle. And that's why I say your sons and your daughters are entering into that world. And how much damage are they going to endure by whoever, their partner, a girlfriend, a one-night stand, a boyfriend? How much damage are they going to endure by whoever they get with? And how much trauma will they have to endure? And how much will they have to repair, not only from that situation that would be ongoing in a relationship, but also from all the predisposed issues they inherited from you. And so, yeah, the whole Sudafed, the leading decongestant used by millions of Americans looking for relief from stuffy nose, is no better than a dummy pill. You gotta blow your nose. Stop taking the Sudafed bullshit. Blow your nose, okay? All right. So this is for all the people who are like, oh, you should get a job, Jillian. You're just wasting your time on the fucking internet. you're lazy, you're this, oh, you have issues. So innovation is chaos turning to order. People say job hopping was such a negative on my resume, and that was when I left that last district, that agent or that district with Farmers Insurance. That one district manager was looking at my resume when I was working with some agent who loosely hired me to potentially be his CSR, and I already knew that I wasn't gonna stay, but I just needed to get some money and get him through the program. And so that way then he can hire a real CSR, not me, because I wasn't going to stick around. But when they looked at my resume, or he looked at the district manager was like, what the hell? You've had so many jobs. I mean, I have like 3 pages. It should really be down to 2 pages or even 1 page. But I had at least 3 pages because I had so many skills. I had so many jobs. You saw where I worked, okay? And so I had so much skills. I had so much. And so when you have so many skills, it's like you can't just not. So anyways. He was like, oh my God, you've job hopped, you did this and that, and I'm like, how do I know you're going to stay? And I'm like, yeah, I get it, okay. But so when people say job hopping was such a negative on my resume, I have so much fucking experience in so many things. I can adapt to cultures temporarily. And expound on my knowledge. I've had district managers and hiring managers reading me the Riot Act and say, why should we hire you if you have no staying power? And I don't blame them. But sometimes they have the things that need to be temporarily taken care of. That's why temping is so great for someone who doesn't want to be somewhere for too long and wants to gain so much skills in the culture, in the skill sets, and in the modules. Because when you're learning all the different programs, data programs or platforms or dashboards for not only insurance companies, but for data entry company or demographic data gathering companies, like for schools and sending reports, and for construction companies doing change orders. I mean, there's so many things that you can learn when you're temping. And when you have so much experience in so many different areas, then you can figure out what to study for. Okay? And so that's what I gathered the last 49 years of my life, was so much experience in everything. And I had to blow my nose. I was looking for a napkin, but I couldn't find it. Hold on. Okay, so it's not bad to get experience. Not everybody stays at one job, and that was gone. Back in the 50s, it was great to stay in one job for like 50 years, but even my generation, they've had so many different jobs. Nowadays, you don't get pensions and retirement from some jobs. You really don't. You get Social Security, and maybe if you went and squirreled away some money, you might live on that. But people are living off of Social Security. And so, but sometimes they have things that need to be temporarily taken care of, and I could take care of it. And so I must sell myself like that until I'm ready to stick to something long term. I've also had people in my life who gave me weird looks when I told them I found a different job. So even though my PMDD may have forced me to do that, it was a gift that was priceless. And so, yeah, when you think about how people have so many handicaps and diseases and things that are going on, what kind of innovation? So you got to think about, it's not a bad thing to have all those types of shortcomings. They're not mainstream, that then you become strategic in how you survive. And that survival could be key to somebody else's survival. That's the thing. When you have someone like me and then someone else that's like a mainstreamer that's been given and groomed a job, like these guys out here, they have people who work at the factories or work, at trucking companies, right? Or they work in factories, or they're coal miners. And so if their dad was a coal miner or a veteran, or if their dad was a trucker or a dispatch, if their dad was, a mechanic or a factory, then the son most likely, and even the daughter most likely, will go into that. They were groomed in that position. They were raised around trucks, raised around mechanics, raised around food if they're cooks or chefs. Well, I was raised around psychology and chemical engineering. What the fuck am I going to do with that if I wasn't going to go to school? I wasn't, but see, even then, if I went to school, it wasn't going to be in that, because my mom was like, I tried to take psychology, and she's like, you're not going to do it. There's no way. I mean, I did take psychology classes, but what was I going to do with that? I didn't know. And she wasn't going to tell me, because she already knew what she did with me. She was not going to tell me. She was not going to groom me into anything. Okay? And so And so that gift is priceless. Starting over again all the time, meeting different people, getting to be acquainted with different cultures, different lifestyles, different belief systems, different skill sets to learn. We don't get that kind of experience in one job. Everyone's competing to get promoted in that one job, right? But when you're a temp, it's that gift that keeps on giving. And so sometimes you need to get that kind of life experience to change the world because you saw the world that needed to be changed. The system developed innovators, and they developed drones, and they developed homogenized people in one area to do only one type of job, and that's it, and pass that experience on to their children, who will then take their place when they die. Sometimes that's the programming in some towns. And I would say Canton, Ohio is that town. I came here and everyone kind of knows each other. There's only a handful of jobs. The service industry, factories, trucking, throwing steel, and welfare. Okay. And then you get other areas where you go into college, Ohio State. You go into Kent State and you learn certain things there. And that's like, down there, down south, maybe, Kent State up north. But unless you're like in the rich part of areas, and then you're CEOs of companies, or not even CEO, you're an executive for a company. Like when I worked for the insurance company, the people who lived in the rich part of towns, either they owned a small company or they were, middle management. Okay? And some people can do their job in one little area and enjoy it. Other people want to see everything. They want to know everything. Sometimes their health issues force some to see everything as a matter of survival and adaptation. And then the unintended benefit was a gem. They have a bird's eye view of the world and they want to change the world. Now, today I would be very reticent to get on a plane everywhere and see everything because planes could go down. And now it's so iffy to do anything. So then you go on the internet. And then you go into groups and you learn the culture of the people. You read their lifestyles and belief systems and wants and needs and desires and even their complaints. Okay, so that's what they were trained for. Even though it wasn't formalized, because one can't formalize innovation, creativity is not in a box. Innovation is when chaos turns into order. It's a risk. Innovation is risky. When I left California to come here, it was a fucking risk. I didn't even have a safe place really was secured. I found someone on fucking Craigslist. A lady that had a house somewhere up north of me. I dodged that bullet when I saw where I was going to go into later on when I met her personally. Because when I called my husband, that wasn't a husband at the time, I said, hey, I'm coming here. And he's like, what? And I was over in Utah on the Salt Flats. Called him and told him, I'm on my way, Jason. I'm on my way to Ohio. I'm on my way to Canton, Ohio. What's up? And he's like, what? Who are you going to live with? Oh, some lady I found on Craigslist. He's like, what? He's like, that's not going to happen. Come on. And so he had sort of a girl that he was sort of seeing, but not really. Probably banging. That was it. And he let her go. Okay? And he took the risk on me. And that was in itself kind of crazy because he was in between relationships. He got out of a 12-year or 11-year, 10-year relationship and then kind of went back to whatever he had before. And then I came in the picture and he really couldn't guarantee that I was going to be, because he was going to visit me. But then when he was going through that situation, he couldn't, I think they froze his accounts because they're going through a type of common law divorce. And the judge then, wiped his slate clean and gave her all this stuff because she wanted everything. So he gave her everything. And so he couldn't come out to see me. So I'm like, and so he was like, if she can't afford to come out and see me and I can't afford to come out to see her, what am I going to fucking do? This is pointless. This 6 months of on the phone that we had was pointless. And so that's when I made the move. I said, okay, I'm not talking right now. And he's ignoring my phone calls because of whatever. Well, I'm going to get through this program. I'm going to do this. And I'm going to get my $2,500 and I'm getting the fuck out of California. And that was my intention. And I worked my ass off for that intention. So innovation is risky. You got to gamble for yourself. And when you're in Nevada and all your world is now, all tied up in Nevada, and Nevada may be going under the ocean. It could be even next year. Okay. You don't know. And so what are you going to bet when you see those lakes rising? And there's more storms and you see the lakes rising and rising. You're like, okay, writing's on the wall. There's going to be more floods. Then it's time to finally make a conscious choice that this is what the future is. It's time to go. Where are you going to go? Study the maps. And so that's what some of these people don't understand. And so they're jealous. They think people like me have so much freedom. No, we had to earn this. I didn't get the luxury to be addicted to drugs and alcohol because I didn't have time to just sit back and relax because I had a nice job. When people get addicted to drugs and alcohol, it's because they're satisfied with their life. They have the car, the house, the friends, the job, the family, and whatever. And so what do? When they go to their job for 8 hours a day, do their job, they do it well, and they go home and drink. Or they do drugs. But why would they do that if they're so happy? Because even though you have a job, and it's maybe fulfilling, maybe not, who knows, it's probably boring every day to go to a job. So how do you mix it up? You go to parties. So when you go to parties every weekend, you go to the bar every weekend, when you go to parties every weekend and no one's doing drug tests, what are you going to do? You're going to make your weekends fun, and then you go to your job to do your job, and then every weekend you look forward to Friday. You can't wait to clock out on Friday, and then you're going to your friend's house. You're going to that bar, and then there you go. That's how addiction becomes. It's a conditioning. Addiction starts out as a fun recreational thing, and then it turns into a habit, and then it turns into a need, and then all of a sudden it turns into something that destroys your life. I didn't have that fucking luxury to have something as predictable as 9 to 5 every single day and then go and party because of my fucking issues. I didn't have that. And so who's we, those who are innovators, suffered the last 20 years receiving your googly eyes at us, denigrating us, insulting us, calling us lazy because you were groomed for your position. I didn't get that luxury to be groomed into a job with the strength and the power and the privilege to become addicted as an unintended consequence of a life such as privilege. Okay? Addiction was from privilege. Because you wouldn't be in that if it wasn't because you wanted to go and change up your life. When people are trying to survive, they're not going to eat drugs. They're going to go find a job. They're going to go and try to deal with their health issues. I mean, I could have, I guess, since I had the PMS, I could have, but I wanted the food. I didn't want the drugs. I wanted the food. I didn't want all the remedies. When I had the PMS, what did I do? I stayed home. I canceled whatever outings that I was supposed to be scheduled for as far as extracurricular activities, missing birthday parties and other stuff. And I sat home and ate takeout food and watched movies. That's why I watched so many movies, because that's all I did when I was PMSing every other fucking month. I'd watch so many movies. Someone would give me a big thing of movies or burned movies. They're all on these discs, compact discs, and I go through and I watch them over, because I didn't have cable at the time. So I had a VCR, a little VCR, and it was plugged into the back of the TV, and I watched movies over and over and over and over again. Okay? So many people want to force square pigs, in round holes and stick to that thought process and think because they did it, because they had a nice job of trucking or mechanic or working on boats or working in an office, that because they did it means I should be doing that too, right? Well, some people go and get surgeries and go and get, prescription drugs so they can go to work. And so they think someone else should do what they do. And they look down upon you. Oh, you're not working the way we are. You're less than. Oh, you didn't get an expensive present for my daughter. Oh, you're a cheap. Appreciate what they have to offer and contribute to the world you live in. Even if you don't even respect their contribution or understand it, the world does not revolve around you or me. Oh, I know exactly the world does not revolve around you or me. I know that. We all have something to learn from each other. And while I'm thinking about it, the fact I moved around so much, not sticking around with any group or association for too long, not getting too comfortable probably saved me from the hell of addiction. When you're always in survival mode, learning about the world, taking on so much knowledge, the reality is no time for addiction, family, or even boyfriends. I had people that I hung out with every so often thinking I could turn that into, but no. That wasn't their gig. They weren't ready for that. They were looking for the Silicon Valley chick that had a degree and a job, that wanted a family, and I was fun. And I moved around a lot, so I showed that I didn't have any staying power, so I was going to be temporary, and I got it. So I didn't really have any boyfriends, really. And so I mostly did my job. Really, I mostly just went and did my job. And that was it. My job and learning stuff and whatever, moved around and then figured out, okay. And so I was looking at a place I used to work, like State Street, and then State Street Global Advisors, and they're actually like what the mainstream, even, Facebook and Google, the whole mighty girl, and it's going to be about women power, I guess, when you think about it. So now's the time to get your daughters more into their brain and not their body, so they have a chance to really compete. The future is theirs. Because once you plan for her to get married off, she's in for a whole world of hurt. She'll be getting cancer, disease, chronic illness, babies and children, and potentially even domestic violence, because many men out there haven't figured out how to deal with their hormones. And so when I said, oh, interesting, the glass ceiling is broken, because there's a picture of State Street Global Advisors, and they are part of Vanguard and BlackRock, and they're moving society forward in different ways. But they showed a picture of a I don't know, what do you call it? A bronze statue and other stuff, an artistic version of a young girl with broken glass in front of her looking up. And so that shows that the glass ceiling has finally broken, right? I wouldn't say it's an equal rights amendment, because what does that actually mean, equal rights? But interesting, the glass ceiling is broken. And then there's backlash, because I read some of the comments. Because when I did Google State Street Global Advisors, and it shows that picture of the little girl with a broken glass in front of her, and then people are like, oh, you guys are racist, you're this, you're that, because yeah, it's like a reverse racism. They're not trying to hire white people in their companies. They're not trying to do that. And mostly women. They want mostly women of color, of different nationalities, not white people. And that's wow. So sometimes not having advanced qualifications is a qualification, because they're like, well, why don't you hire based upon qualification? Well, maybe back in the 80s, the 90s, maybe even 2000s, they needed to accelerate the economy, accelerate the agenda. So they needed to have those who were programmed to be very left brain or very analytical with their parents' background in finance to go and fill their parents' place so they can realize crypto, realize, the mortgage crisis, realize all that mortgage and financial Wall Street stuff. And then now that's calmed down, and we're not looking to do that and just get over on people who are desperate to be rich. Now they can let go of those really aggressive, highly intelligent, highly advanced people, because they'll just want to, and so we're not looking for that anymore. The system is slowing down its need to make a lot of money. And Wall Street guys, way back when Boiler Room and Glenn Gary and Glenn Ross were like selling people land and selling them timeshares and selling them fucking crypto and selling them, IPOs and all of that, and then shorting it and doing it. Oh, that's all going to be done with, okay? And so sometimes not having advanced qualifications is a qualification. We're not in hyperdrive. People have time to learn. If you think you're overqualified to work for State Street or qualified, then open up your own business if they don't hire you. And compete against State Street Global Advisors. Maybe now these large companies will give somebody who couldn't really compete a chance to compete. Maybe the last 50 years they needed to accelerate the economy. And so they bioengineered people to be extremely advanced who overshadowed those who do not get that opportunity to be bioengineered to do a certain type of job. And so now the other people get a chance to learn through a certain capacity. And there's always some advanced person to watch over the situation. Okay? I can't be upset at that. Because you knew we were not competing on an equal playing field. We had people who have type A and B brains. Let's say, for instance, John, he's a type A or B, whatever, right? And he went into finance, and he was like whizzing out numbers left and right. And someone like me, who's type O, who didn't have that antigen antibody programming, that kinetic energy that made you really just think really fast, couldn't compete with that. Because he was bioengineered for something like that, and I wasn't. So you see, even bioengineering doesn't give people the equal chance to compete. And so now we're giving people an equal chance to compete. And maybe the blood type A and Bs are going to be phased out, which they're doing. Remember, you've seen that. is part of the whole depopulation agenda. Those who are type A and B are going to have a hard time with these frequencies because they have so much kinetic energy in their bodies, so much antigen antibody program coming to surface. Okay? So I can't be upset at that because I know exactly that I was not programmed equally like my sister. She probably got the type A and B programming and I didn't. She probably is type A and B and I wasn't. Blood type, RH factor. So people were not competing on a level playing field the last 50 years. So much human experimentation. And some people were put at a disadvantage for so many reasons. So the tides are turning. If you think you have what it takes to work for them, as far as State Street, because they're a financial accounting firm, right? And they hire somebody else, work for yourself. Go be an entrepreneur or find their competition. I mean, being an accountant, the financial accountant, is not life or death. It's not like you're a fireman and you're only weighing 100 pounds having to pull a body that's like 200 pounds. That's not what it is that they're doing. This is brain power. Okay? But if you're trying to work for a trucking company and you have to throw chains and throw straps and climb up, things and all that, and you have disabilities, you can't compete for that job. Oh, but women can do anything. Yeah, they can if they have the physical capacity to do that job. But then you have to make it, you have to then accommodate my handicaps. And that's not fucking realistic. Come on, please. Okay? And so, there's this guy that I used to, he was one of the when I worked there, when I worked at State Street, I was an executive assistant, taking the place of a lady that's on maternity leave that she eventually be phased out. And one of the directors was fired. And so he was forced out. And a lot of the people were forced out. And they're actually out of, I think, one of the main offices was actually over there, Back Bay, over there in Boston. But I worked for the one in Sacramento. And he was forced out and wanted to try to figure out what to do. I mean, he has a CPA, but he finally figured out that he's not going to work for State Street anymore because they forced him out. And so now he works on his own. He has his own CPA firm. Sometimes that's what it takes, is you just, since you have the brain power, you have the education, you have the drive, hopefully, right? Develop your own business. And so that's what he did. Instead of saying, okay, I'm going to work for the competition of State Street, he went and figured out how to go maybe buy up somebody's book of business, develop his book. Who knows? Because when you buy someone's book of business, it could be a couple $100,000. And if you have that kind of money to invest, you can buy someone's book of business and build it up. And now you are CEO of your own accounting firm. So if you're so qualified to work for State Street and they don't hire you because they hired a woman, open up your own fucking office. Stop bitching. I'm not going to read that. Now you know why I don't do drugs and alcohol, why I purify my system, and why I do not treat any disease. It's a gateway to hell. It's a gateway to hell when you treat disease with drugs and alcohol and herbal remedies. And when you're on the track to hell and you want to redirect, you have to visit that hell and face it and survive it. That will be a reminder never to ever go down that road ever again. I'm not trying to be judgmental. I might come off like that, but not to shame you, not even to try to save you, because there's no way I can do that, but to show you can survive your symptoms if you know how to respond to them. And so this is then with the cannabis. This is where I'm like, holy shit, about sex and cannabis and how sexuality, and I'm not going to read all of this, but I would just say this, because I know there's a lot, but sexuality does lead to mental disorders, like a lot of sexuality, a lot, and also cancer, disease, and chronic illness, because with sexuality, it senses or senescence, or senses that there's a deterioration going on. And to what level, to what degree is relative to how bad it is, and then you coming back from that will be relative to how bad it is. And so that's why the severity of these diseases are based upon how much at a deficit you are. And dropping kids with a high risk pregnancy says that you are already at deficit, and now your kids might be innovative if they're not crazy, And they might contribute, but they will have a lot to come back from. And it's a question if they even survive. And so then the cannabis then also activates people's, sexuality. Okay, it did for me when I smoked it. That's why I don't smoke it anymore, because it doesn't work for me anymore. I'm done with that. But that's what it was for me, was more of an aphrodisiac than not. So any aphrodisiac out there serves to destroy you. And so anytime that you're taking something so you can have sex, or you can make your sexual urges more pronounced and this and that, that then is a more of a destruction. And that will lead then to mental illness as well as physical illness. And it's all been documented. People are like, oh, it's a natural remedy. Well, no shit. Everything's a fucking natural remedy, because everything comes from earth, nature. It's just how it's been configured and how strong it is. And then what your environment, how the environment influences it. So in a lower frequency environment, natural remedies were not that aggressive if they weren't influenced with more energy. But in this environment, natural remedies would be like pharmaceuticals back then, before the environment changed. So now your natural remedies are not what you think they are. They're actually accelerated and even more deadlier. And so if you have been exposed to the addictive marijuana, the chances are most likely it was introduced for a reason, not to save you or give you relief, even though it might be an unintended consequence, but to build in destruction. And so there are minority groups that have been exposed to marijuana, ganja, and there's a whole religion, culture, lifestyle around the marijuana. And a lot of them go to Burning Man. A lot of them hang out in their spiritual healing groups. And when you are deteriorating on a level, you will tap into certain hormones that make you see weird shit. Yeah, that's called deterioration. And when you're deteriorating, then you will develop not only mental illness, but intolerance, and also all the different diseases. And you'll fall apart on the way out the door. And certain cultures, like the Native Americans, the Black population, even segments of the Hispanic and all that. Because actually in 1910, the Hispanics, the Mexican Hispanics, introduced marijuana to the U.S. And then there was this whole thing about it. And we know the opium trade was huge. Okay, but marijuana was introduced to the U.S. by the Mexicans in 1910. And so then in the 1920s, right, then you had the jazz age. And then you had all the people that were doing the jazz stuff, the flappers doing the ganja. And that's where then they were studying all of that. Then the 1960s was studying all of that, the ramifications, how they can even program people and develop aggressive sexuality around that. So you think Klaus Schwab could tell you what I told you? And I'll tell you that in a minute. You wouldn't listen to him anyways. You had to hear it from your peer who went through the pain. That's why we're in a great reset. Peace out. Your resistance is their persistence. You did it to yourself. I'm trying to give you another way out, but you have to do the work. And there'll be a lot of suffering. And there's no guarantee your kids will make it. I hope they do, for your sake. And so here's what I said. Antigen antibody programming are the juvenile cells destroying the parent cells, which is why people are falling apart and aging out. If they don't realize those demons, their children or juvenile cells will cannibalize them. Just like in real life, in families, children suck the life out of their parents through money and time and all of their needs and wants. Buy me a toy, daddy. Buy me a toy, mommy. I want to go here, daddy. I want to go here, mommy. Da, da, da. And then the children bury their parents, and their kids do the same thing to them for generation after generation after generation. And everybody is starving. And I see most parents don't have any boundaries when it comes to their children. They allow the children to destroy them and walk all over them. Ironic, isn't it? Not really. And so after the Mexican Revolution of 1910, Mexican immigrants flooded the U.S., introducing the American culture the recreational use of marijuana. The drug became associated with the immigrants, and the fear and prejudice about the Spanish-speaking newcomers became associated with marijuana. And I said Montezuma's revenge. And here you go. What was it says? The relationship between marijuana use prior to sex and sexual function in women. And this is how they hooked everybody on sexuality through the drugs, especially the cannabis industry. You all were set up to fail. They can proverbially kill a million birds with one stone, kill you with kindness, kill you with pleasure, demonizing pain and your suffering. This is the depopulation agenda. They found that the majority of marijuana users reported an increase in sexual enjoyment and orgasm intensity, as well as either an increase or no change in desire. Endocannabinoids, which are structurally similar to marijuana, are known to help regulate sexual function. Oh, I'm sure. And so if you can kick that spell out of your body, you must have a chance. You might have a chance to save yourself, which is the sex demons. But the sex demons are the most formidable demons ever, and they are the hardest to kick out. And so even the religious people can't hide behind their religions anymore. They can't hide behind their scripture. It's all in plain sight. I put PLANE for a reason. The sex demons plague the religious world. It's either justified or everyone's in denial with religion against the demons in their body, and the demons will still cannibalize them. And of course, religions, you're seeing these people who are in these religions, Christian religions, dropping scripture, and they have baby after baby after baby after baby, destroying the mother, of course, making the father work so extra hard, and they're justifying it. And there's demons in these kids because these mothers and fathers have predisposed issues. Yeah, so my latest awareness will go over many people's heads, like with the sex demons and all that. I broke the spell, but most people are still under the spell. Fucking insane. And so then all politics, all religion, all science, and the family was all about destroying humans. Everything was about the sex and sexual slavery in religions, in politics, in science. Then you have the sex wars, gender wars, and the religious wars. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is where I'm discovering some stuff and putting things together. When you have all that disease and antigen, antibody programming, it leads to hypersexuality and children, and even hypersexuality in children. Because then it comes out in ADD, ADHD, and other issues. That is the depopulation agenda. And it could even lead to autism, right? Hypersexuality leads to predatory behaviors and cancer and death. Autoimmune disorders come from hypersexuality. That's all of those cultures fornicating inside of you, causing you to act out those proclivities at the micro level and macro level. That's also the aging process. That's why they had so many beautiful people back in the 1940s, 1920s. They knew the future was going to destroy humanity or at least take down many people. So you figure people in the 1920s, and they had all the ganja and all the sexuality, and they had people so sexualized, and then they had babies, and those babies turned out to be someone in the 1950s, 1960s, who then had babies on top of that in the 1990s and 2000s, and now you see where we are today. People are, just look at Christina Applegate. And she is now deteriorating from MS. Okay, but she was hot when she was younger. And then the spell was broken. And everything was to be as it was before, what it was meant to be. Her immune system wanted to now finally kick out the demons. And that's why people blow up. That's why they get so swollen. That's why the aging process, you either get so sucked in and look like you're a crypt keeper, or you get so blowed up because of the swelling of your immune system finally working the way it's supposed to, but there's no way for it to escape. And so it melts off the collagen, turns into gelatin. And people are swollen. And so sexualization in girls linked to common mental health issues, as well as physical issues. Hypersexuality is like an addiction. And they put all the fires. If people say there are evil people in the world, those evil people had mothers and fathers who raised them. Why don't you take a look at in your own backyard? What are you raising? What are you forcing society to deal with now or in the future? Okay? And the system is not fucking around. And so there is this, so what prompted that was the destruction appeared greatest in Derna, a city formerly held by Islamic extremists, in the chaos that gripped Libya for more than a decade and left it with crumbling and inadequate infrastructure. Libya remains divided between two rival administrations, one in the east and one in the west, east backed by militias and foreign governments. Thousands feared dead in Libya after a dam collapses. Then you look at the future maps of America and you look at how much all the water covering Nevada, Hoover Dam, right? Hoover Dam. You better check the water resources in your town. And then the whole thing with the human farming, I couldn't watch that virtual video. So I'll read this. I couldn't even watch the virtual video. I think I watched 1 second of it, saw where it was going, and Delta, you need to see this. Don't show this to your children. But what you need to see what you've contributed to for centuries. This is what you signed up for when you don't value life and your child's life, and you keep treating them for disease, or you keep having children with no intention of keeping them alive, or yourself alive for that matter. That is basically what you signed your child up for when you don't respect yourself, parents. This is what you are giving to the system, your children to be butchered in a million different ways. This is why I can't watch. This is literally human farming in virtual reality. That mirrors what you do in the medical. So that video mirrors what you do in the medical holistic system, surgical system, and the justice system. Because when you have an out of control child who has now mental issues, who is very predatory, they'll eventually have to go to death row. Because they're not going to deal with, the system now has to have zero tolerance for what you're bringing into this world. And if you have kids with mental issues that show that they could do harm, they'll be sacrificed. They could be put in Gen Pop and not even survive Gen Pop. And so this is what happens when you put your kids in the medical holistic energy healing world and you don't release the demons, or you have children that you have no intent to keep alive. And so that's what happens when you can't control your children. And literally your cancer children, or the children that you have in your house that doesn't understand suffering and eating food and releasing demons, and then knowing when to pull back from their wants and needs, and they're not entitled. We have spoiled children out there who don't give a shit, who have parents who give them everything, not put any boundaries on them, and then they become 15, 16 years old and they're just taking stuff because mommy and daddy never put any boundaries on them. Mommy and daddy gave them everything they fucking wanted. And then they turn into alcohol and drug addicts because you know why? They could. Everything was given to them. So what are they going to do? They have no drive, no innovation to do shit because everything was given to them. And so that's how they have the privilege to be an alcoholic and a drug addict, because everything was given to them. They didn't have to do fucking shit for anything to earn their way into this world. And so then the comments in that Reddit article was associating the human farming to the factory farms. Of course, they're dissociating themselves away from what they could do to themselves in the medical holistic surgical system and what they do to their children. Everyone is all about treating animals with respect, but humans don't even treat their children and their families with respect. So that's what they do to animals in factory farms is no different what they do to their own family, farming out their children to medical, surgical, holistic system, and they do it to their pets in the veterinary system. And that's the pot calling the kettle black, isn't it? And they're like, oh yeah, that's what we do in the pet system. You do that to your fucking kids. And so I changed my website a little bit. So I said, intention of the book, Another Arm of the Hydra, the book I have out now is neutral relative to politics, religion, spirituality and science. It's the book for the ages and the masses. The book, Another Arm of the Hydra, is beginning of the deprogramming so you can save yourself if you choose. And it's biological deprogramming. The next book, Ending Human Farming, will provide a valid argument for the sanctity of life by ending the culture of human farming, contributing to the suffering and predatory behaviors in children and adults. And it does start with the parents. And so I'm still giving you a choice, but also to observe how easy it is to condition people via operant conditioning programming. No. Okay. So I'm going to say that. But stay tuned, 2030, the human evolution, ending human farming. And that includes tempering the sexuality. And that includes maybe not promoting so big families. And maybe not pushing your kids into destructive relationships that require them to have to penetrate or be penetrated by somebody in order to feel like that they are a whole person. That they have to now have a baby in order to be accepted. That maybe it's time to change the way you're parenting today, mothers and fathers out there. And so, I'm not going to read that. And this is why I unfollow people who advertise their children and market them. And it's not because of predators on Facebook, really. Sometimes I just know your politics. I know what kind of future you laid out for your daughters and sons. And that knowledge is painful enough. And I know the trauma you are going through. I know you love your kid, but I know they will be going through a suffering because they have to. How much is too much? How much is too little? I want to see see them when they're an adult. I want to see what you produced in this world. I don't want to watch it during the process because it's painful. We don't see the outcome of our intentions until many years later, or we might see it sooner. They may not survive. Or they may act out their tendencies earlier because the environment is that accelerated. And so people have commented, I'm a psycho. What is psycho is the denial around it. What is it? Everything I am bringing awareness to. It took releasing the programming and being sober and clean to see it. I release the nanotechnology controlling my hormones. That's the only way you're going to be able to see what I'm seeing, if it's even possible for you. Some of you can intellectualize with it, but it will take you biophysically, biologically, releasing the demons to actually feel it. Once you feel it, you can't go back. That's why the market of being under the influence is so huge, because people don't want to feel the pain. And then when people are totally numb, they harm themselves, and then they tells that they can, fuck. And so they harm themselves so they can feel the pain. You know the girls in schools that cut themselves, right? Because they are so numb and suffering, they all want to feel something. I never had that problem. I felt too much, if anything. Okay? Some people don't feel enough. That's why we have monsters in our society. They don't understand the pain and suffering of anything around them, and so they keep repeating their trauma just so they can feel something, even if it's something else's pain and suffering. When you can't face your own pain and suffering, you will inflict that onto other people purposely. And then you expect to die someday. And you expect that life to die someday. Death is people's absolution. The system will give you what you want. They have to. They can't afford to have you keep suffering. It's taxing the system. Now it's about forcing fertility. Okay. Now look at the animal trade. Forcing fertility and even spay-neutering is the slave trade of animals. Selling puppies and forcing animals to have puppies purposely is like farming out your daughters and sons to the nearest stranger who look good on paper. All of that feeds into the holistic medical veterinary world, developing more suffering, and then conditioning people to destroy things when it doesn't serve its purpose anymore. That's the slave trade you belong to. That's why you don't understand where I'm coming from, because you're doing it, and you are in it, and you make money from it, and you're addicted to the social capital around it. And so you keep the suffering going, and you keep traumatizing everyone around you. And so the children are nothing more than a commodified piece of something to trade, no different than when they arranged marriages way back in the days of the kings, and people still do that today. That's why humans have not been cured. They're still children. And so forced fertility is the suffering and the enslavement of developing coping mechanisms around the lifestyles. Farming out your offspring is no different than the slave trade. Okay? And so younger women will have to suffer until they learn history, and they will repeat history until they stop having children by the time we reach 2050. They can't stop you from having children. They can't stop you from having sex with people, whatever. They can't stop you from having families, but they can change the environment to where then it forces things to come to surface and then potentially make you infertile. Okay? And so younger women will have to suffer until they learn history, and they will repeat history until they stop having children by the time we reach 2050. Younger women are having a hard time with my information. Younger women in the conservative states, radicalized by their mothers, will have a very hard time with my info, as they are under the control of their husbands and boyfriends and societal constructs, and most of all, their mothers, grandmothers, and in-laws. Because I had some young lady come through, post some shit on my timeline, and said some stuff. And I looked at her Facebook and looked at who she's with. She's in Kentucky. She has a cute boyfriend, probably, I don't say hillbilly, but like my husband, but younger. So definitely not mature. And she had things to say to me, and it wasn't very nice. And so that's what prompted this, because she's younger. She's cute. He's cute. And they're all about conservative values and veterans and patriotism and guns. And then probably watched the Dr. Phil show and freaked the fuck out. And she couldn't wait to tell me what was on her mind. And so when women do not know who their jailers are, they will embrace their enslavement, and they really have no choice. It's sad. That is the suffering of humans. When I see trolls come through and they have a bunch of younger daughters who are so gorgeous, they trade off for enslavement. The trade-off for enslavement is everybody worshiping her sexuality. Then she gets validation. And her mother gets validation too, right? Because she produced that beautiful daughter. She is now addicted. She is now a slave to that validation. And now you have to watch it run its course. The trauma, the terror, and the cancer, and the rest in peace. And of course, a few parties in between, maybe with a few kids dropped along the way. And on top of that, the younger boys, gorgeous, fit, and a good catch. See, I'm explaining both of them, right? Will now have to deal with these women who will enslave them into family, large families, stress, special needs, and her expectations. I feel bad for the boys feel bad for so many people who are not aware, especially in this environment. And you will see women defending their lifestyle as well as men, because they are trapped. And if they don't think of themselves as trapped, then the denial is another coping mechanism. When you're trapped, you don't want someone pointing out how trapped you are. The knowledge of your enslavement is the suffering, because now how do you strategize your way out if you can't? You hate those who can. I hope you survive everyone's expectations and even your own. Okay? And so, yeah, that's to all the younger millennials who are with their hot boyfriends in their nice side-by-sides in the southern states or even in the northern states, and you're advocating having a child, you're advocating remedies and surgeries and all the traditions, and you can't wait to tell me can't wait to give me your peace of mind about something that I didn't even do to you or anyone else. I hope you survive whatever happens as far as the special needs if your child may be encountering at some point. I hope you suffer. Oh, shit. Wow. I hope you survive. But I mean, I hope you suffer so you can learn, but I hope you survive your belief system. I hope you survive the cancer and the pregnancies. I hope you survive all that. And I hope you suffer so you can remember what not to do. But see, that's the thing. People don't like suffering because they don't want to fucking learn. Then they become zombies. Then they become unemotional. And then they go and inflict pain on other people. So when you're always under the influence and stuck in a role and in a tradition, and someone is challenging your role and all that, then you have to go and destroy something different. Destroy someone else's thought process. Destroy someone else. And that's what these millennials out there in the conservative states, and even probably in the left wing too, if they're that intolerant, but especially in the conservative states, I'm talking to you. Your world is going to be going up, I don't say going up in flames, but it's going to be upset. Because where do most of the conservatives reside? West Coast, Nevada, over there, Utah. Look, all the Mormons in Utah. That's going under the fucking water. Did you look at it? You know where Mormons are, right? They're in Utah. And the South. I see a pattern here. It's not my fault. Don't come after me because you can't fucking learn and you're under the influence of your mother and your husband. But you did it to yourself. So that's all I'm going to say. But those are the indicators. Everything that's happening are the indicators. Everything. So time to gamble for yourself or against yourself. But now the choice is yours. And the West, you're getting so much warning. You're not getting warning like those over there in Libya. You're getting warning right now. You better take inventory on where you live and how much you have, what you can afford.